My name is Ivoree Hernandez. I am a class of 2022. I'm also a comm major. I'm from El Paso, Texas, and I was also in the FIG group my freshman year in 2018. So it's not too long ago, but seems like it when you're, I guess, at this point in college. So today I will be talking to Kara, who will be going through her, telling me a little bit about her first year in the FIG group and her experience as an Aggie so far. So let's get started. Awesome. Well, nice to meet you, Kara, in a weird, like, virtual way, but super awesome to finally get to talk to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So my name is Kara Cleere. I'm from a very small town in East Texas called Canton, Texas. Most of the time, the only reason anyone has ever heard of Canton is because we have First Monday trade days that like 1,000 people come to once a month. So very small town. Coming to A&M was kind of like a huge jump for me, but it's been wonderful so far.
Awesome.
Aside from school, so like in my free time, I teach English as a second language to kids in China. And so I do that like every morning before school.
Wow. That's
And
awesome.
then I really love writing and really all kinds of communication because I'm a comm major as well.
So you're a student and a teacher right now. That's amazing. That's cool. I like that. All right. So what made you decide A&M in the first place?
So I've always kind of been drawn to A&M. I feel like most people are in one way or another, even if it just like you're drawn to it because it confuses you. But last fall, no, fall of my junior year, I came to my first Aggie football game
Ooh,
and it like sealed the deal.
that's
It
it.
was such an experience. Like I'm literally have not been able to stop smiling today because tomorrow is game day and I'm just so excited to be back in Kyle.
Oh, that's fun.
But it was just such an experience that I was like, this is wow, like what a family. And it was just something that I really wanted to be a part of. And I've been sold ever since.
Nice. And what does your family say? Just coming to an like very prestigious university and being a first gen student.
I think it was definitely a shock for them because I have two older brothers that went very close to home. So they were about 45 minutes away, and College Station is 3 hours away from my hometown.
Okay.
So that in and of itself, like the fact that I'm the only girl in my family and I'm the baby, my parents were a little jarred that I was going 3 hours away when my brothers had stayed so close.
Mhm.
And then I think also the fact that my brothers didn't go to four-year universities. Like I'm a first-gen university student in my entire family. My parents didn't go, my brothers didn't go. And so whenever I brought my parents to Texas A&M for the first time, my mom was so shocked and she was like, "How are you supposed to walk from class to class? It is so big." And I was like, "It's just you do it. I mean, they give you
Yeah.
the time."
You're like, I
But it
didn't
was
know.
definitely hard for them to like process that there were so many people and it was so big and their baby girl was going off like by herself.
And the reason I ask that is just because I feel like being a first gen student, like we're looked at as like the brave one. At least that's what my family calls me. Every time I go back home, they're like, "You're so brave. Like I can't believe you just got up and left," because my family was so opposed to me coming here. I'm 10 hours away, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't visit very often. It feels like I'm in a different state almost, like I'm so far away from home. And I just try to keep convincing my mom, like, "Mom, trust me, you gotta see it for yourself. So she took a trip down here, and same thing. Funny you mentioned your mom like hating the whole walking concept, because she was like, "You're really gonna come here? You're gonna walk all the time? Are you sure you want to do this?" I'm like, walking is like the least of my problems. Like, what is so that's why I asked, just because it is a big step, leaving your family, your home, your regular routine back home. So congratulations on being here. Got your first game tomorrow, so I'm sure you're hyped. Um, so I know you mentioned a little bit of your hobbies and things like that before coming to A&M. So why don't you elaborate a little bit of like your life back home before being a college student?
Yeah, so I'm just in general, I'm the kind of person that likes to stay really busy. I just don't do well when I don't have a to-do list full of things for that day. And so all through high school, I did speech and debate all 4 years, which that and a combination of, I also did UIL journalism. So those two combined are kind of what helped me find like my passion for communicating with people and for understanding the way that people communicate with each other and how to like use that. So I did those two things all 4 years of high school, and I was also a varsity cheerleader. And so my weeks were very jam-packed, especially like going into my weekends. I would go from like team dinner on Thursday night for um, cheer, and then like Friday we would do a lot of community oriented things for game days, and then I would have pep rallies and then football games, and then I would get home really late, and then I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning for a speech and debate tournament the next day. And so I've been used to that like fast-paced schedule, and it's just something that I've always enjoyed and always loved. And so I think it made it easier to like try and get involved once I came to A&M, because I was used to having a lot on my plate. And so it was like, well, now I have absolutely nothing. Like there's nothing but opportunities to get involved in things.
That's awesome. Alrighty, so you kind of answered the next question, which is what's your major and why you chose it. Why don't you tell us a little bit of what you plan to do with your degree?
So I actually want to go into ministry. Um, I originally was going to major in journalism whenever I came to A&M, and I'm pretty sure I applied to A&M with a journalism major, and then it ended up switching like right before I registered for classes to comm.
Mhm.
Um, so ultimately, after I graduate, my hope is to write devotionals and Bible studies and things like that. And large scale would be to travel and speak at women's conferences in different churches across the nation. And then small scale would be to do essentially that same thing, just in whatever church that the Lord places me in, like wherever I'm serving.
You seem like a so like well-rounded person. I'm like, I want to be friends with you after this. Like, we meant to
Thank
like
you.
meet today. Okay, so you have a lot on your plate. You don't like to just sit here, and I know it's kind of hard to kind of get involved with everything going on, but um, what kind of organizations, or clubs are you in at A&M?
So, the obvious one is the FIG program. I signed up and applied for that whenever I was coming to A&M, and honestly, I was hesitant to do that at first, but it's been wonderful, and it's given me a lot of like amazing friends. And the coolest thing about FIG is that everybody's going through the same thing that you are. And so it's not like making other friends that are like, well, why don't you just ask your parents for help? Like the people in the FIG program understand that your parents don't really understand how to help you through this situation. They haven't been there. They don't know what you're going through, but the people in the FIG program do. And so that's what's really wonderful about that. I also joined an on-campus Bible study called Delight Ministries. It's amazing. We meet once a week on Sunday night, and then we also get paired up with Delight dates throughout the week. And so you meet up with another girl that's in Delight, and you guys just get to socialize. And it's a really awesome way to like meet new people every week because you're rotating around. I am involved with the Liberal Arts Student Council. I almost said student ministry. The College of Liberal Arts Student Council. I applied for that and got accepted a few weeks ago. So we just had our first meeting last week, and that's a really awesome thing. It's a really cool professional organization because it's definitely super practical, and once again, like there's a lot of like-minded people because you're all in the College of Liberal Arts, and so all of your degrees and all of your majors are connected in some way. Like there's some kind of similarity with everybody in that group. So the last one I'm involved in is Her Campus. It is an online publication and like online magazine type platform that has chapters at different universities. And so I'm a member of A&M's chapter, and currently I'm on the social media and events team with them.
Oh wow. You're definitely involved in getting the full experience of what A&M has to offer. So that's awesome. Congratulations to you. What has your experience as an Aggie as a whole been for you so far?
Oh my gosh, it's so surreal, honestly. Like I know we have the whole like from the inside looking out, you can't explain it. From the outside looking in, you can't understand it. Like all this kind of stuff. But honestly, that's so true. And I always thought that that was funny when people said that until I got here. And then I was like, that makes sense. They're
Mhm.
totally right. It's such like, I don't know. It's weird because it's a huge campus and such a large community that you're joining, but then it feels so small because everybody is so for each other, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, there's still people that you have to like, be cautious about and things like that, as there are in any situations. But for the most part, I just love how like bonded everyone is just over being at the same university, and how we've created like this little society that roots for each other and is just there for each other. And just how anywhere you go, people are like, oh, well, Aggies help Aggies. Yeah, like you need help with that. Sure, I'll help you. And people that you barely even know will just go out of their way to do something for you because you're an Aggie and they're an Aggie. So it's how it works.
For
So it's
sure.
definitely just amazing to be a part of something so large, but feels so close knit.
Yeah, definitely. How has COVID impacted your first semester? You're like, don't talk about it, don't speak.
So me and two of my friends in the FIG group were actually talking about this the other day. Um, so it's definitely crazy that this whole ordeal that started in March and was like stealing away the last half of our senior years, kind of like spilled into our college experience. But in a way, I'm not grateful for it, but I'm grateful for it happening when it did,
Yeah.
because we don't know any different being at A&M. So like all of these things that are different, and like yes, we can acknowledge the whole like wearing masks when you go to class is odd, and having classes that are half virtual and half in person is odd. But for us, like we don't know what it felt like before.
Mhm.
Um, because like this is our first semester being here, and this is we didn't have family that was here to tell us like, oh, that's different and that's different and all this kind of stuff. And so it's definitely hindered it in some ways, but in some ways it makes it a little bit easier because it's not as overwhelming. Because like visiting organizations and getting plugged in, it wasn't like, oh, I have 8 meetings to attend this week and I have to get from point A to point B. Like, no, I sat in my apartment and I logged on to Zoom meetings. And like, if I wasn't a fan, I could like be really inconspicuous about it. And it wasn't like I had talked to 10 people that knew and were going to recognize if I wasn't there the next time.
Right.
So in some ways it makes things easier. In some ways it's kind of unfortunate because it's like, oh, like I wish I was going to my first midnight yell tonight, or I wish that we were going to be able to, I don't know, like saw him off in a regular way at the game tomorrow. Like I know none of that is going to be the same, but I never experienced it the other way. So it's not like, oh, I miss the way it used to be because this is all I've known so far. I think the hardest thing about COVID is having the option for remote classes
Mhm.
for like every class that you're taking. So all of my classes ended up being in person this semester, which was like very shocking because I know people who have one in person or none at all in person. And so all of mine ended up being like in a physical classroom, but they have remote options for every single one. And then some of them are hybrids. And so we meet one day and Zoom the next. So it's kind of nice to have the option to just jump on a Zoom, but also I'm trying not to take advantage of it because I know it's not always going to be there.
As we're coming to an end with our interview, I've learned a lot about you and how involved you are and how much you've taken advantage of the great resources and opportunities that A&M and the FIG group have offered to you. So I asked, what advice would you give future students in the FIG group?
I would say definitely just, and I know you hear this from all angles, but like from someone who's actually going through it right now, I can't stress to you enough, like get involved in everything and try as much as you can. It's the best thing that you can do, and it's the easiest way to adjust. Because if you're finding that you're having trouble adjusting to this new life and this new environment and being on your own and everything, but all you're doing is sitting in your dorm or your apartment by yourself and like talking to your friends from back home or something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, still talk to your friends from back home, but if that's all you're doing, then you're not going to get adjusted any easier. So really the only way to do it is to throw yourself into this situation and just like figure it out as you go. Because I promise you're not the only one that's doing that. You're not the only one struggling or trying to make sense of everything that's going on. And so it's really like the more that you get plugged in and the further that you go, you're going to realize like, oh, look, she's struggling too. Hey, let's be friends. And then y'all figure it out together. And so it just makes it so much easier when you just be willing to get out of your comfort zone and recognize that this isn't what the last however many like 17, 18 years of your life have looked like. It's not going to be what the last 17 or 18 years of your life have looked like, and you can't force it to be. So embrace it and just run with it.
Wow, I'm all inspired. I'm like, she's right. I'm already in my third year out here, and I'm like, wow, I'm learning something today. No, you couldn't have said it better. Honestly, that was awesome. That was great. That was a good piece of advice. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for meeting me today and taking the time to answer these questions and, letting everyone else get to know you and your experience at A&M and the FIG group. Thanks and gig 'em, I should say. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Give them a little thumbs up. Just give the camera like a